They called her a beggar at the Mai Mahiu stage, laughed as she hid a coughing child beneath a faded shawl, and told each other he knew Janja. But there was a crumpled envelope she would not unfold in public, a name she would not say out loud, and a deadline only she carried. By the time this road reaches Kijabe, some of those voices will whisper,
Paul, forgive us.
and one small heart will decide what kind of neighbors we really are. Before you judge her, ask yourself, if the only way to save a child meant letting strangers call you a liar, would you still stand there and ask for help? Stay with me. If you believe in second chances, karibu. Tap subscribe so you don't miss how this ends. Now listen to the rain on the tin roofs, the trucks grinding up the escarpment, and the boda horns cutting through the morning. We begin where the whispers got loud, at the stage where Grace Wanjiku holds the child a little closer and chooses silence over shame. The morning breaks gray over the Mai Mahiu stage. Rain stitches the air into silver threads as trucks grind up the escarpment and matatus hiss to a stop. Grace Wanjiku, Shiku to those who know her, stands beneath a tin awning with a faded shawl wrapped around a small, coughing girl. She keeps her head low. She keeps her voice soft. Habari, tafadhali, she says gently. Even 50 shillings helps. Her palm stays open, humble, not insisting. The child's breath rattles, a thin whistle that disappears and returns like a wave beneath the noise of the road. Porle mrembo, tulia, Shiku whispers, smoothing the child's hair. Boda riders idle nearby, helmets hanging from handlebars. Someone laughs too loudly and says, "He knew Janja." Another adds, "Watu wamechoka kuibiwa, eh?" A camera phone lifts, just high enough to catch her from an angle that tells only one kind of story. If you've ever stood at a stage and judged a stranger in a glance, you know how quickly a verdict can form without a single question asked. Shiku shifts her kitenge bag closer to her chest. A crumpled envelope peeks out, the corner stamped in blue, the kind of official ink that means lists, dates, and numbers. She pushes it back out of sight. She does not want to hold up paperwork like a shield in the rain. She does not want the child to become a public lesson. Across the puddles, Mama Nyeri folds her arms behind the kiosk counter, eyes sharp as a new razor. Sasa, tomorrow it's school fees, next day it's hospital. Watu wa Nairobi wanatuzoea, she mutters to customers who lean in for chai and gossip. Suspicion is easy to share. Kindness asks for courage. Which one do we reward on mornings like this? Coins clink in Shiku's hand from a matatu conductor who won't meet her eyes. Asante, she says. She shifts so she doesn't block the kiosk door. The child coughs again, a deeper one now, shoulders jumping. Shiku cups the little back and hums low, a tune so quiet that the rain almost swallows it. A rider named Jose lifts his phone, ready to capture a joke, then pauses. The lens finds what the crowd misses. The blue stamp on that envelope, the faint letters that look like AIC, Kijabe. He frowns just slightly and lowers the phone halfway. What do you notice first? The laughter, the cough, or the ink that says there might be more here than meets the eye? Tafadhali, Shiku tries again, voice steady. Even a little. She could say the child's name, tell the whole story, empty the envelope into the street. She could turn on her heel and walk away. Instead, she pulls the shawl higher, sheltering the girl from the splash of a passing truck. Discreetly she wipes raindrops from the envelope and tucks it deeper from view. The stage breathes gossip the way the hills breathe fog. A young mother, hand on a pram, glances over and hesitates. An older man counts change twice before shaking his head. A schoolboy in a frayed sweater watches with that solemn, too-grown gaze children learn when money is always tight. Tulia binti, we will try again. Maybe you've seen this scene a dozen times and learned to look away. Maybe today is the first time you hear the whistle in a child's breath beneath the commotion. The rain falls a little harder. Someone in the back says, "Enda for baraza." Someone else says, "Si shiku akuja wambie." The road keeps moving. The clock does not stop. Shiku lifts her eyes and raises her hand once more. Nisaidie hata mia moja, tafadhali. Somewhere behind the laughter, a red recording light blinks. Somewhere beyond the hills, a hospital slot opens and closes like a door on a windy day. She takes a breath, chooses silence over shame, and stands her ground. Before this road climbs toward Kijabe, some voices here will soften, others will break, and one small heart will show this village what kind of neighbors they really are.
By midday, Kindungi's market hums like a hive, and gossip moves faster than the tea boils. Chapati sizzles on a blackened pan. Sukuma wilts under steam, and every stall seems to know the story of the woman at the stage. "Hii ni Nairobi cons wamekuja ama?" a shopper asks, half curious, half tired. Someone swears they saw her last week. Someone else swears she cried on cue. No one mentions the way the child's breath caught between coughs. At Mama Njeri's kiosk, coins clatter, airtime receipts flutter, and opinions arrive in piles. She tells her regulars about scams that emptied her neighbor's M-Pesa, about a man who promised a funeral, then vanished. Fear has a good memory. Kindness often needs proof. "Si watu wajipange," she says, topping up a thermos. "We are not ATMs." Laughter follows because it is easier than doubt. Down the row, Jose leans on his boda, trading jokes about potholes and football. He plays his own clip again, this time without the banter. Pausing the frame, he zooms past Raim to the corner of a crumpled envelope. AIC, Kijabe. A soft crease across the seal, the kind clerks make after stamping. He slows the audio and hears the whistle in the child's chest, thin and high, like wind through a keyhole. The joke fades. "Si munaona hi," he murmurs, but his friends are already laughing at another story. Evening slides in. Karai's roadside lights flicker on. Shiku reaches her one-room house, shakes rain from her shawl, and lights a small jiko. The room smells of smoke and soap. She stirs uji until it thickens, then sets aside the chipped tin cup to cool. On the wall sits a slightly blurred photo, a woman smiling in a red kanga near the Mai Mahiu escarpment, the date scribbled under it, April 2024. Shiku touches the frame with her thumb and whispers, "Pole dada." She opens a narrow notebook, edges softened by many pockets. Names and tiny amounts run down the page, each line carefully dated. A few are circled, one is underlined twice. "Naseren," she reads, and stops. The call pops. Outside, boys kick a flattened bottle. A neighbor argues quietly about rent. Shiku rewrites a phone number to be neater, then closes the book as footsteps pass her door. She could stand in the market and pour her story like tea into every cup. She could hold up hospital papers like a shield and dare anyone to doubt her. Instead, she rinses the saucepan, folds the shawl for morning, and lays the child on a thin mattress, head lifted slightly to ease the breathing. "Tulia mrembo,
Kesho tutajitahidi tena. Back at the kiosk, the rain returns in brief, stubborn threads. Mama Njeri wipes her counter and repeats a line she has learned to trust. If it is true, why hide? She does not see the way children stare when adults discuss prices for a pulse and a lung. She does not remember that dignity is also a kind of medicine. Jose parks near the kiosk, helmet in his lap, eyes on the dark road. He types and deletes, types and deletes. The village is small, the internet is loud. Between them sits a woman who will not argue, and a child who needs air more than explanations. He hits record, breathes once, and begins, Guys, wacha tu angalie vizuri. In her room, Shiku holds the notebook again. The pages smell faintly of smoke and rain. She runs her finger down the list, stops at the underlined name, and closes her eyes. Tomorrow she will return to the stage. Tomorrow the whispers will be waiting. What exactly have you assumed about her? And what lives between one name in a notebook and the truth it carries?
Sa, a voice calls from the kiosk. Mama Nyeheri emerges, hands on hips, jaw set. Wananchi wanataka ukweli. She walks toward Shiku, and the crowd thins into a ring without being asked. A fruit seller wipes his hands on his apron. The boda boys cut their engines, and even the tea boiling on a charcoal jiko seems to wait. Every day you stand here and you say tafadhali. If it is true, why hide? Show us. Amahini ujanja. Shiku adjusts the child higher on her hip and keeps her voice low. Mama, situongee mahali tulivu, she says. Simbele ya mtoto. Her eyes don't challenge, they plead for gentleness. The child's breath whistles, then catches. Pole mrembo, tulia. The circle tightens, questions multiply. Which hospital? Whose child? Who is the father? Why you? Each question tugs at a thread she has refused to pull in public. Shiku shakes her head. Nisaidie, hata kidogo, she repeats. We are trying to reach a deposit. She does not say the name. She does not lift the envelope. Jose arrives with his helmet tucked under his arm, phone in the other hand. Yesterday he might have laughed. Today he raises the phone, then lowers it a fraction. Wacha tusikize, he says, voice steady. Let's ask, not accuse. A few riders shift, surprised to hear caution from their own. Ask what? Mama Nyeheri snaps. She stands on our road. She asks our people. We have the right to know. She turns to Shiku again. If it is real, toa karatasi, right now. A murmur of agreement rises like wind through dry grass. Shiku's kitenge bag slips as she tries to soothe the child. Something soft and stiff slides out and drops into a shallow puddle with a dull slap. The paper darkens as water climbs its fibers. Jose steps forward on instinct and crouches, fingers careful, lifting the envelope by one dry corner. Blue ink spreads in feathery lines. On the seal, through the smudge, 3 letters hold. A-I-C. A-I-C. Beneath them, a longer word, only half alive in the rain. He squints. Pediatric. Ah, paperwork can be printed in town, someone mutters. Mi nimeona hizo. Another voice answers, quieter this time. But look at the stamp. The stamp is faint, but there. The kind clerks press over a counter without looking up, dated in dull purple. An old man clears his throat. Mzee Kiari steps into the ring, back straight, eyes calm. Watu wangu tulia, he says. Hakuna fujo, no mob justice. He looks at Shiku, then at the child, then at the envelope in Jose's hand.
If there is truth, it will stand in daylight, but we will not tear a child's dignity to find it. Mama Nyeheri's voice softens, but only a little. Mzee, hatujalim mtoto vibaya, wijali watu wasitangiwe. She inhales, the fight in her not only anger, but fear. I have seen cons, and I have paid for tears that were lies. Around her, heads nod. Pain makes busy allies. Shiku meets her eyes and speaks so softly some must lean closer to hear. Sio kila siri ni ujanja. Sometimes we hide to protect, not to steal. She does not reach for the envelope. She does not wipe the mud. She keeps holding the child like a promise she refuses to break. Jose turns the envelope carefully. Inside, moisture has curled the edges of thinner sheets. Through the translucent paper, he catches fragments: provisional, theater booking, cardiac, deposit due 10 a.m. He swallows. 10, tomorrow. He looks up at the circle of faces, stubborn, curious, tired, and for a moment the road noise fades. Give me the number, he says to Shiku, gently. Nita confirm. I will blur names. No one needs shame to know the truth. Shiku hesitates, then nods once, eyes shining, and traces a line on the envelope with her finger. Jose keys it into his phone, thumb hovering over the call icon. Si chifa kuje, someone calls. Baraza, another voice answers from the back. Mzee Kiari nods. We will meet. We will listen. He glances at the girl, whose lashes tremble against her cheek. But remember, time does not wait. If this paper speaks true, then we have hours, not weeks. The child coughs again, a wrenching sound that folds her small frame. The ring loosens. A few eyes drop. One woman reaches for a handkerchief and offers it without a word. Mama Nyeheri watches the tiny chest rise and fall, the fear inside her, fighting with an older memory she has tried to forget. Jose lifts the phone, looks at the stamped corner, and finally presses call. The line clicks, then rings against the hum of engines and rain. He turns away to hear better, one finger in his ear, the envelope pressed against his palm like a live thing. The crowd leans forward without meaning to, breath held. On the third ring, a voice answers, tinny and clear. April 2024. The air was thick and wrong. Clouds pressed against the escarpment like a hand against glass. People said the dam up there was fine, then not fine. Then the rumors broke into sirens. Maji! Kimbia! Voices tore down the road faster than the first wave. Torches danced, then vanished, swallowed by a roar that did not sound like rain. It sounded like metal and stone and trees breaking. Shiku was closing her kiosk, counting coins by the light of a battery lantern. She had just stacked a tray of eggs when the ground shuddered. In the split second between knowing and fear, she grabbed the lantern and ran to the door. The street she knew by heart was not there. In its place, a brown muscle of water ripped along the gutter and leapt the curb in a single, effortless swell. Children screamed. Somewhere a dog howled, and then there was only water. Shiku waded into it without thinking, lantern held high. Huku! Huku! She shouted, voice small in the thunder of debris. Two small figures clung to a post, eyes white with shock. She wove a kanga into a rope, tied one end to a metal sign, and inched forward, feet groping for anything that did not move. Pole, pole binti, shikilia, she said, hands burning as she pulled one child, then the other to the drier lip of ground. Behind her, the kiosk groaned. The door banged once, twice, and broke free. The tray of eggs slid, rattled, and cracked. A neighbor's voice cut through the dark. Grace, Angalia nyuma! She turned in time to see the walls sigh and fold like wet cardboard. Stock, shelves, ledger, the little business she had built scoop by scoop, lifted and swirled like leaves. She might have cried if there had been breath to spare. The night split into scenes, someone shouting names, a mother wailing into her shawl, a boda headlamp sweeping wildly, then winking out. Mzee Kiari, knees in mud, sobbing, watoto wangu, and then clutching the two children she had hauled up as if they were his last unbroken thing. Shiku pressed his shoulder. Wapo, Mzee, wapo. He looked at her through the rain and nodded, a broken, grateful nod, the kind that says a debt has been written without words. In the weak hours before dawn, when the water's anger faded into a heavy, stunned quiet, a tall man in a red shuka stumbled along the verge, Elijah Olenkoitoi. He called the name until his voice frayed. Naserian! Naserian! The name kept breaking on the rocks of his throat. He found Shiku crouched beside a bundle, checking a tiny pulse, counting breaths. He sank to his knees. Mama yuko wapi? He asked, already knowing the answer the river had given. Shiku's hand found his. Pole, she whispered. He closed his eyes and whispered back in Maasai, Ashe oleng, thank you. Because gratitude and grief often arrive together and say nothing that makes sense. Later, the rescuers brought lists. The chief took names. The morning light found faces the night had rearranged. In that bleached daylight, a nurse with damp shoes listened to the little girl's chest and frowned. She needs a hospital that can check the heart, not just now, always. She wrote a referral, folded it twice, and pressed it into Shiku's palm because Elijah could not stop shaking. Kijabe's corridor was cool and quiet. Posters of smiling children lined the walls, the kind of pictures that promise a future you can almost touch. Dr. Ruth Mutiso spoke gently, drawing a simple heart on a scrap to show where a small hole should not be. Ventricular septal defect, she said, then made it plain. This is why she coughs, why she tires. Beatrice Wekesa, from social work, sat down opposite and slid a form across the table. There is a fund, and there are donors, and there is a queue, but there is also a theater schedule, and deposits that move a case forward. Elijah looked at his hands. The knuckles were raw from a night of holding and losing. Sina, he said, voice flat, I have nothing. Beatrice did not flinch. We will go step by step, she said. Guardianship for treatment, signed by the chief, consent, a pay bill that goes directly to the hospital. We will not use the child's face to beg, dignity first. Dr. Mutiso nodded. We can help, but it will cost. In the chief's office, under a portrait and a flag that smelled faintly of sun, Shiku signed her name where the line asked for a temporary guardian. Her hand shook, not from doubt, but from the weight of the promise. At the hospital cashier's window, she learned the amounts that turn hope into a date on a theater board. She tucked receipts into an envelope and wrote the deposit deadline on the seal. She did not sleep that night. She folded and unfolded the same kanga, listened to the small whistle of a small chest, and decided she would stand in any rain people could throw, if that is what it took. The phone at the stage crackles back into the present. Yes, the voice says, we have a provisional booking for a pediatric case, deposit due by 10 tomorrow to secure the slot. Jose thanks the caller. The line clicks. Around them, machines hiss and engines cough and people stare. Shiku reaches for the damp envelope as if it were fragile skin over a fragile heart. She meets the eyes that had judged her and does not look away. Between the roar of that night and the hum of this morning sits a single, merciless question. Can a village outrun the clock it helped to start? A nurse guides them into a small room where sunlight falls in a neat rectangle across the floor. Dr. Ruth Mutiso enters with a file pressed to her chest, calm eyes that make rooms steadier, and a voice that lands like a hand on your shoulder. Karibu, she says. Let's talk simply. She draws a quick heart on blank paper, then adds a tiny circle between the lower chambers. This is a VSD, a hole where there should be a wall. When blood slips through that hole, the lungs get more than they should. That's why she coughs. That's why she tires. She turns the paper so Elijah Ole Inkoitoi can see it clearly. He nods once, hands clasped until the knuckles pale. Will she be okay, he asks, the question carried on a thin wire between hope and fear. Dr. Mutiso's answer is careful and kind. With surgery, many children go on to run, to play, to grow. We will check her today, echo, blood work, and if everything aligns, the teen can repair the whole. Beatrice Wekesa from social work joins them, a folder of forms and a face that says, I will help you carry this. We know cost is heavy, she begins, but we do not make people walk alone. She lays out the steps in neat lines, the grant application already opened, the hospital's social fund, the slot penciled on the theater board, and the deposit that secures it. To hold tomorrow's slot, we must receive the deposit by 10 a.m. She taps a stamped receipt and a printed pay bill sheet. All funds go directly to hospital accounts. Hakuna cash kwa mukono. Dignity and transparency, sawa. If you've ever counted coins outside a clinic door, you know this feeling. Your body in one chair, your mind racing down every road that might bring help. Shiku nods and slides her envelope onto the desk. Inside are earlier receipts, the referral, a guardianship letter from the chief, and a handwritten page of small donations that smell faintly of smoke and rain. She does not push the papers forward like a victory. She simply lets them be seen. Beatrice checks reference numbers against her system, then looks up. Your record is clean. The grant has reduced the total. After discounts, the target is here. She circles a figure with a blue pen, then breaks it into pieces, what's already paid, what donors have pledged, and the amount that must arrive before morning. We'll keep names private, she adds, glancing at the child. No child's face on a poster. We can tell the truth without taking her dignity. In the echo room, gel glistens on a small chest. The screen blooms with black and white. A technician angles the probe, and the machine draws a river of sound that looks like tiny mountains. Pumua pole pole, the nurse whispers. Breathe gently. The child's lashes flutter. Her heartbeat patters through the speaker. Fast, determined, imperfect, the bravest drum in the world. Shiku watches, thumb pressed to the kitenge at her throat, as if holding herself from falling apart. Back in the consult room, Dr. Mutiso signs the echo report and sets down her pen. We can proceed if the deposit lands. My team is ready. She looks from Shiku to Elijah. I know this road has been hard, but you are not alone. Beatrice slides across a list of verified channels, hospital cashier window, official bank account, and the pay bill that prints a receipt with a hospital reference. Asante, Shiku whispers, the word catching on a breath she didn't know she was holding. Outside, the fog lifts enough to see the valley fall away in green folds. The journey back to Mai Mahiu waits, the stage, the kiosk, the watchers who will choose to help or to look away. If you stood with them now, what would you do with the hours left? Call a friend? Send a little? Share the truth. Sometimes Harambee is not a banner or a band. It is 10 shillings here, a prayer there, a promise kept when no one is clapping. A caption slides up. Child's face blurred. Names withheld. Donate only via hospital. He adds the official channels on screen, hospital cashier window, bank account name, and the pay bill instructions, with sensitive details gently masked. Usitume kwa namba yangu, he says. Do not send to me, send to hospital. Tunataka uwazi. He exhales, taps post, and watches the upload bar crawl like a lorry up the escarpment. The video lands. Comments arrive in a staccato rhythm. Source: pay bill, please. Someone tag the hospital. Is this legit or another story? Jose pins a reply with a Google Maps pin to AIC Kijabe Hospital and the main switchboard number. Pigasimo, confirm for yourself. Call and confirm. He keeps the tone calm, the information simple, the pace steady, because panic breeds doubt, and doubt can kill momentum. Hashtag KOT notices. A teacher in Nakuru quotes him with a thread. Before you mock, listen. A nurse in Kikuyu chimes in. The stamp style is ours. A diaspora dad in Doha asks for the pay bill reference, adding, small but from the heart. A student in Eldoret posts, 50 bob isn't nothing if 5,000 of us give. The idea spreads. A Harambee without tents, built of tiny bricks of trust and 10 shillings at a time. In the kiosk, Mamanjeri watches the video silently. When Jose pauses on the hospital band, she leans closer. She recognizes the pale plastic and faint purple text, the same kind she once wore for a cousin's ward. Her shoulders drop a few centimeters. "I," she whispers, a word that carries more regret than syllables. She turns the volume up and listens to Jose say, "Dignity first, hakuna sura ya mtoto, no child's face." Elijah sees the clip on a neighbor's phone outside the Agrovet. He watches Jose blur the child's features, hide names, show only what's needed. A message buzzes in Jose's inbox. "Niko hapa, I can speak if needed. Sitaki aibu ya mtoto. I don't want the child shamed." Jose replies, "Asante, evening live, saa moja, audio only, facts too." He schedules a short live stream for 7. Title: Kijabe Deposit, Let's Keep It Clean. He invites Beatrice from social work to join by audio for general guidance. She agrees, careful with boundaries. "We cannot share private files," she warns, "but we can repeat the process and confirm official channels." Jose nods. "Sawa, watu wanahitaji mwanga. See drama. People need light, not drama." The view count climbs. A soft chime begins to punctuate living rooms and matatus alike, the M-Pesa tone that sounds like hope. You have received. You have sent. Screens glow green in kiosks and bedrooms, in a guard's booth in Parklands, and a bedsitter in Mombasa. A lady in London comments, "Sent, for Naseren, praying." A welder in Thika writes, "Niko na mia tu, lakini ni yetu." I have only 100, but it's ours. Jose posts an update. Hospital confirms funds are landing. Keep using the reference. No cash handling. Asante. He refuses DMs asking for his personal till. Hapana, hospital only. He answers skeptics with the same reply. Call Kijabe. Ask about deposit deadlines. When someone accuses him of chasing followers, he replies, "Follow truth. Unfollow me if needed. Mtoto apumue. Let the child breathe." As dusk turns the valley purple, a new message blinks from the hospital line. Reminder: If deposit not received by 9:45 a.m., slot will be reallocated. Jose reads it twice, then records a calm, urgent clip. Fam, time imebaki kidogo. We're close, but not there. The live counter ticks upward, a patient, relentless metronome. In the kiosk, Mamanjeri reaches for her till and whispers, Pole Shiku, as she keys in an amount she used to keep for stock. Elijah leans against a wall and closes his eyes, the first true breath of the day slipping out. Night gathers. The road hums. The internet, for once, feels like a blanket and not a flame. The numbers rise, then slow, then rise again. Somewhere on the theatre board, a slot waits with two names beside it, one faint, one bold, and the question hangs in the blue light of 1,000 screens, will the total turn before the clock does, or will a stranger's child take the place meant for Naseren when morning comes? Chief Ntenya steps forward in a navy sweater and speaks without shouting. Karibuni, hakuna fujo, sawa? We are here for ukweli and haki. Facts first. She gestures to the table, where a ledger sits beside a small speaker, a printed notice of the meeting, and a jug of water. We will listen, we will confirm, and we will decide what helps a child while protecting dignity. Shiku stands near the front, the child drowsy against her shoulder. Elijah Olen Koitoi at her side with his cap in both hands. Jose leans by the speaker with his phone and a cable. Mamanjeri sits on the aisle, arms folded, eyes sharp but quieter than yesterday. A few elders settle, canes resting against their knees, ready to measure words by weight, not volume. Beatriz Huequesa from social work arrives with a folder and a careful nod. Asante, Chief, she says, placing papers on the table. Guardianship for treatment, signed by the Chief's office. Consent from the father. Referral to AIC Kijabe and receipts for prior deposits. Names will remain private. She taps a printed sheet. Official payment channels only. Hospital cashier window. Bank transfer to hospital account, or the pay bill listed here. Hakuna cash qua mkono. Chief Ntenya turns to the crowd. Our role is to protect the vulnerable and prevent fraud. If you wish to help, you will do so through these channels. We will verify every reference number. She writes the pay bill on a flip chart and adds, if you doubt, piga simu. Call and confirm. A murmur of approval moves through the front row. The speaker crackles as a call connects. AIC Kijabe Hospital, Pediatric Cardiac Unit, a calm voice says. Jose holds the phone near the mic. We are confirming a provisional theater slot for a child from Mai Mahiu. Is a deposit due tomorrow morning? The voice answers, yes, provisional booking stands until 10 a.m. If deposit is received, the slot is secured. Jose thanks them and ends the call, letting the final words hang in the shade like a promise with a clock. He cues a short edit on his phone. The small screen shows the envelope stamp, the blurred child, the pay bill overlay, and the recorded confirmation. No music, no drama, just steps, dates, and a number to call. He says, we keep dignity. Tunaweka uwazi. We keep transparency. Heads nod. Even skeptics prefer clean lines when children are involved. A hand rises in the third row. Question, a shopkeeper says. If it is true, why hide? Why not show papers at the stage? Why not speak loudly from day one? It is not an attack. It is the ache of people who have been fooled before and built walls to feel safe behind. You may have asked a version of it yourself. Shiku shifts the child and answers without heat. Sio kila siri ni uongo. Not every secret is a lie. Sometimes we hide to protect, not to steal. A child should not learn the price of her breath by listening to adults argue over it in public. She looks at the faces she knows by name. I asked for help. I chose not to use a child's pain to force your hand. The chief nods slowly. Hiyo ni point ya maana. That is important. She turns to the ledger. For the record, all future updates will be read here publicly and cross-checked with hospital references. If you wish to pledge, do it through the hospital. If you cannot give, tafadhali, do not harass. She underlines the pay bill once, twice, for those in the back. Mama Njeri stands, voice measured. Chief, mimi nilikuwa makali. I feared cons. I still fear them. But if the hospital confirms and if names are kept private, I will support official channels. Si lazima tuaibishe watoto. It is not yet an apology, but the door opens in the tone. The crowd exhales a little. The chief looks over the rows. Is there anyone with relevant testimony before we close? Chairs creak. A cane taps once. Mzee Kiere rises, straightens his back, and steadies himself with a breath. His eyes move from Shiku to the child to the hills beyond the fence. Nisikizeni, he says softly. Listen to me. The clearing falls quiet in a way only truth can command. He lifts a hand, and the afternoon seems to lean toward his voice. There is something I saw the night the water came.
The clearing holds its breath. Only the bell on a distant cow answers him. He looks at the child against Shiku's shoulder. That whistle in the chest. Hiyo sauti niliisikia usiku ule. I heard it that night. I carried it home like a thorn in my heart until morning. He turns to the faces he has known since they were young. You know me. I do not rush my words. If I am lying, Mungu anijue. If I am telling the truth, then let us do haki, justice, not noise. A murmur moves through the chairs, smaller than rumor, heavier than doubt. Chief Nthenya nods to Mzee and speaks gently. Asante Mzee, thank you. Then she faces the gathering. What now? Tufanye nini? What helps the child and keeps uwazi? She points to the flip chart where the hospital pay bill is written in thick blue strokes. Ideas that protect dignity, that move money safely, that we can all stand behind. Jose steps forward, phone in hand, voice level. He si show, he says. This is process. He lays it out cleanly, like setting cups in a row. 1. Give only through hospital channels, cashier window, official bank, or the pay bill on this board. 2. Every reference number is read here at baraza and cross-checked with the hospital switchboard. 3. Daily totals are announced publicly, names optional, amounts transparent. 4. No child's face online, ever. 5. I will stream the updates for diaspora and folks stuck at work, but the money goes direct to hospital, not to my till. Heads tilt toward the simplicity. People like steps when fear makes hands shake. An elder taps his cane once, a sign older than applause. In the second row, someone exhales, the way a person exhales after holding a heavy box too long. Then Mama Nyeri stands. She does not fold her arms this time. Her palms stay open at her sides. Chief, she begins, eyes on the ground before they lift to Shiku. Mimi nilikuwa mkali. I have been scammed before.
We buried a cousin with borrowed money after promises vanished. Fear made me hard. I poured that fear on this woman. She swallows. Shiku, Pole, I am sorry. I forgot that protecting a child sometimes looks like silence. I forgot that dignity is also medicine. She turns to the crowd. If hospital confirms, I will support the official channels. I will start with my own tale, and I will boil chai at the hall tonight for those who come to give. Hatuwezi kuwa watu wa maneno peke yake. We cannot be people of words only. The apology lands not like a banner, but like a small, steady light. Elijah Olenkoitoi has been standing at the edge of the shade, cap twisting in his hands. He steps forward now, voice low. Nikohapa, it is my child. I got lost in grief. I hid because I was ashamed that I had nothing. Sitaki aibu yamtoto. He faces the line of elders. Ask me anything. I will sign everything. I will work, but do not punish Grace for my silence. She has done what I could not do. The chief studies his face, then nods once. Asante, she says, your courage is part of the cure. She turns to Beatrice. Social work, please confirm what you can, without names. Beatrice lifts the folder. Guardianship and consent are in order. The hospital queue is real. The theater board has a penciled slot for tomorrow. Deposit must arrive by morning to secure it. She looks up, firm and kind. We can keep privacy and still keep pace. Jose raises his phone. Then this is the move, he says. Church Hall, se kumi na mbili, 6 p.m., he adds, translating with his fingers. We gather. We read reference numbers. We call Kijabe on speaker for cross-checks. Diaspora joins the live stream. No bags, no baskets, no middleman. Hospital only. He glances at the flip chart. By 10 a.m. tomorrow, a text tone slices the quiet, bright as a drop of rain on hot stone. Chief Nfenya checks her phone, then lifts her eyes. Update from the hospital, she reads. Due to a cancellation, a pediatric slot has opened for tomorrow. If deposit is received by 9:45 a.m., pre-admission will be at 11. If not, the slot is reallocated. The numbers sit in the air like markers on a map. 9:45, 11. The crowd understands clocks better than speeches. Men glance at watches that work when they want to. Women count change with their fingers by instinct. Someone whispers, Leo usiku tunafanya kazi. Tonight we work. The chief closes her book. Baraza is adjourned. We reassemble at the hall. Remember, uwazi, haki, pole were needed, and asante for every small gift. People rise not with noise, but with purpose. Chairs scrape, shoes scuff, and the path to the church hall writes itself under their feet. Jose walks beside Mamanyeri, planning a simple setup. Elijah lingers, then steps toward Shiku. Ashe oleng, he murmurs. Thank you. She nods and shifts the child, palm on a small back that lifts and falls. If you were there, what would you carry to the hall? A thermos? A 10-shilling coin? A phone with a pay bill ready? A prayer you have not said in years? The sun slides lower. The bell will ring again, and somewhere on a whiteboard in Kijabe, a name waits to be written in ink instead of pencil. Will this village move the line before morning, or will tomorrow arrive with regret in its hands? Reverend Peter Maina lifts his hands, not for performance, but for order. Karibuni, he says, we gather for truth and for a child. Hakuna vitu za kuonesha sura, no faces of children,
No theatrics. Numbers only. Uwazi. We give through the hospital, not to individuals. We read references aloud for those who wish, names optional. He nods to Jose at a folding table with a laptop, a small speaker, and a tangle of cables that will carry this room to the world. The live stream blinks live. A simple caption, nothing flashy. Kijobe deposit, hospital only, dignity first. Comments begin to scroll like rain along a window. Watching from Doha, Nakuru here, Dallas, present. Niko Mombasa, pay bill details again? Jose points to a poster by the door, listing the official channels. Hospital cashier, bank account in the hospital's name. Pay bill, confirmed on call. Piga simu if you doubt. Asante. The first M-Pesa chime sounds, clear and bright, and then another. The hall answers with soft claps that ripple rather than roar. A volunteer at the front reads from a stack of slips. Reference ending 317. Amount received. She lifts her eyes. Name withheld by request. The whiteboard squeaks as received inches forward. It is not drama, it is arithmetic with a heartbeat. Youth groups move like a small crew. One checks the camera angle. Another mirrors the whiteboard totals into the stream. A third calls the hospital switchboard on speaker. Good evening. This is the community from Mai Mahiu. We are confirming that pay bill references are arriving to AIC Kijabe. A calm voice answers. Confirmed. Funds are posting. Deposit deadline remains 9:45 a.m. for tomorrow's slot. The room breathes out and leans in. At the back, Mamanjeri stands at a plastic table with her till, head bowed as if over a prayer. She keys in an amount she once reserved for stock, pauses, and presses send. The chime lands in the hall like a small bell. She walks to the front, not for applause, but for accountability. Reference ending 824. Amount received. The volunteer reads. Mamanjeri swallows, turns to Shiku, near the aisle, and says quietly, Pole, nimekosea. Nisaidie nianze upya. I was wrong. Help me begin again. Shiku's eyes shine. Sawa, she whispers. Tuimarishe huyu mtoto. Tuwalinde wengine. Let's strengthen this child. Let's protect others. The live stream chat warms. I'm a fundi in Thika, sending kidogo. Watching from Manchester, shared to my church group. Johannesburg here, praying. A Naivasha Welding Cooperative comments. We can't send much cash tonight, but we pledge to fabricate an oxygen cylinder rack for the pediatric ward. We'll coordinate with hospital stores. Jose reads it aloud and then smiles into the camera. Hiyo ndio roho ya Harambee. That is the spirit of pulling together. Time becomes a long, good work. At 7:40 p.m., the board sits at almost halfway. At 9:06 p.m., it climbs past 2/3. A child's laughter from the back reminds everyone what this is for. At 10:31 p.m., the generator coughs. The youth switch to a battery lamp without breaking the rhythm. A volunteer pours chai into enamel mugs. People give what they can. A boda rider's day's profit, a teacher's end-month balance, a diaspora nurse's midnight hour. The balance line shrinks like a shadow under a rising sun. Jose keeps the tone steady. If you've just joined, use the official channels. Don't send to me. Call the hospital if unsure. We read reference numbers here. Another chime, another update. Reference ending 592. Received.
A murmur of thanks travels the room. Even fatigue feels holy when it carries a purpose. Midnight arrives. The hall thins, then refills as people rotate, some to sleep, some to take a shift. Elijah signs a simple acknowledgement with the chief for tomorrow's pre-admission. Shiku rewrites the hospital's visiting hours into her small notebook, then tucks it away like a fragile bird. The live stream keeps humming, comments from time zones where morning has already begun. Sent from Berlin, from Kisumu with love, from a stranger who was once helped. 6:47 a.m. A phone vibrates on the table, skittering against the wood. The volunteer answers, puts it on speaker. AIC Kijabe Hospital. Good morning. Confirmation. Deposit received. Pre-admission at 11. The room does not erupt. It melts. Shoulders drop. Someone sobs once, then laughs. The reverend bows his head. Asante, Mungu, he says softly. Thank you, God. The whiteboard's received line meets the target like two hands that should have held each other all along. People sit back, stunned by the quiet of a goal met. Outside, the sky brightens over the escarpment. There is still a theater to face, a day to endure, a child to carry into a room where courage wears blue scrubs. But for this moment, the village has done what villages do when they remember who they are. They have opened a door that only money and mercy together can open. And now, as the taxi climbs toward Kijabe, another question waits at the edge of morning. Will small hands find big strength when the theater lights come on?
In triage, numbers line up like quiet facts: weight on a scale, temperature under an arm, oxygen that flickers a little low, then steadies when the child leans into Shiku's shoulder. Pumua pole pole, the nurse whispers. Breathe gently. She tucks a warm blanket to the chin and signs a line on a chart. The room is calm on purpose, as if calm itself were medicine. Shiku sits on a bench and loosens a small braid, then tightens it again with careful fingers. Tulia mrembo, she murmurs. Tuombe halafu unaingia. Let's pray, then you go. Elijah stands close, thumb rubbing a bead on a bracelet he brought from home. He bends to the child's ear. Ashe oleng, he says softly. Thank you for being brave. His voice trembles, then holds. Dr. Ruth Mutiso steps in with scrubs, cap, and a steady smile that has soothed 100 rooms like this. Good morning, she says, eyes kind, sentences clear. Here is what will happen. We'll take her to theater. She will sleep. My team will repair the small hole in the wall of the heart. If everything goes smoothly, she will come to recovery. Then ICU for close watching, and later to the ward. You can see her after. Elijah's hands knot together. Is it dangerous? The question is simple and enormous. Dr. Mutiso nods to its size. Every surgery carries risk, she says, but this is a repair we do often. We have prepared. Your work is to wait, to breathe, and to keep faith. She looks at the child and softens her voice. Utamu katena, she promises, you will wake again. Consent forms rest on a clipboard. The chief's stamp shines in faint purple. Shiku signs where the line asks, pen steady though her chest is not. Elijah signs too, jaw set with a new kind of courage. A theater nurse checks the wristband, checks the name, checks again. Sawa, she says. Twende, shall we go? If you have ever waited outside a theater, you know how minutes grow loud. The clock ticks like a tap that won't quite shut. Coffee cools untouched. Every footstep sounds like news. Jose sits on a bench in the courtyard, phone face down on his knee. He does not film here. He types a simple update. In theater, no photos, no faces, keep them in prayer. Back in the church hall, a smaller overnight crew has become a morning shift. The whiteboard has turned from numbers to a short list of names to remember in prayer. For the child in Kijabe, for hands that heal. Mama Njeri pours chai into tin cups and keeps her voice low. Nze Kiari sits with his hat in his lap, eyes on the door as if he could will good news to arrive early. In the pre-op corridor, the theater nurse kneels to eye level. "We will put the small mask," she explains gently. "Count with me." The child nods, wide-eyed but steady, one hand on the shawl that smells like home. Moja, Mbili, Tatu. The voice drifts, soft as cotton. Shiku presses a kiss to a small forehead. Elijah swallows and steps back so the trolley can turn. Doors marked "No admittance" swing, then seal with a hush that sounds like a held breath. On the other side, blue gowns move with practiced economy. A light awakens over the table. If rooms could pray, this one would. But rooms do their work. Instruments counted, hands washed, a checklist answered line by line. Hours become their own country. Drips tick. Monitors answer in measured beats. Outside, Shiku watches a slice of sky fade and brighten as clouds slide past the window. She remembers the roar of the flood, the crack of her kiosk wall, the small hand she wouldn't let the water take. She remembers the stage, the cold rain, the words she did not say. She whispers the ones she can now, Mungu tusaidie, God help us. Jose walks the length of the courtyard twice, then sits and types, holding space. If you're at work, whisper a prayer. If you're in traffic, breathe for them. He adds, "No calls to the ward, Thafadali. Let the team work." The comments answer like hands on a shoulder. Here with you, praying from Kisumu. At a site in Doha, lifting her up. Near midday, a nurse steps into the family room, eyes kind. "Update," she says. "She is stable. The team is repairing the hole. A special machine helps the heart rest while they mend. We will come again when there is more." The words are simple, designed to hold worried minds without breaking them. Shiku nods, and Elijah exhales a breath he did not notice he had trapped. Afternoon leans long. The valley brightens, then dims as the sun decides what kind of day to be. The smell of antiseptic becomes familiar, almost comforting. On a nearby chair, a mother hums to a sleeping boy. An orderly wheels a bin past with soft rubber squeaks. Time keeps moving, even when you ask it to wait. At last, footsteps approach with a rhythm that belongs to someone who has carried news before. The theater doors part, and Dr. Ruth Mutiso walks toward them, cap off, mask hanging loose at her neck, eyes clear but unreadable. She stops, gives them the grace of a full breath, and opens her hands the way you do when you're about to place something fragile in someone else's keeping. Shiku stands. Elijah stands. The room seems to lean with them. If you were here, you would hold your breath too. Dr. Mutiso meets their eyes, and for a heartbeat, the world narrows to this one moment, this one mouth about to speak. She begins, gently. "We have." A nurse guides them to the doorway when it is time, careful and kind. The ICU hums with soft, serious music, beeps and breaths, the low murmur of nurses. A small body rests under a sheet, a clear line at the nose, a dressing like a tiny flag on the chest. "Polembrembo," Shiku whispers. "We are here." Elijah stands very still, hands by his sides, learning a new way to be a father in a room where strength is quiet. Jose reads the update from a bench in the courtyard and types a single line to the hall. Surgery successful. Stable in ICU. No photos, no faces. Asante. Back in Mai Mahiu, the church hall doesn't erupt, it exhales. Shoulders drop. Someone hums a hymn under their breath. The reverend closes his eyes and says, "Thank you," into the room, like you would thank a friend who came when you needed them most. The next afternoon, under the shade of the chief's camp, a smaller circle forms, not for rumor, but for repair. Chief Nthanja starts with a truth that sits well on the tongue. "Kuna tofauti ya pole na kurekebisha," she says. There is a difference between saying sorry and making it right. On the plastic table, a short agenda, a ledger, and a pot of tea that says, "This is not war, this is work." First, the chief continues, boundaries. She speaks plainly. No filming children. If you posted a child's face, take it down. If you forward unverified accusations, own it and correct it. We protect dignity first, and then we talk. Heads nod. The lesson is not heavy, it is practical, like a rule for boiling water before you drink it. Mamanieri stands, palms open. "Shiku," she says, voice steady. "Mimi nili kukosea. I wronged you. Fear made me hard. I poured it on you. Pole. Nime ondoa zile status. I removed the status videos. I will serve tea at the clinic this week for families who wait outside theaters like you did. And at the hall, I will help read references when communities raise for hospital. Hion dio yangu. This is my part." Shiku meets her eyes and nods. "Umesalehewa," she replies softly. "You are forgiven. Lakini, tukubaliane, dignity kwanza. Let's agree, dignity first." Two riders who jeered at the stage step forward in turn. "Tutasaidia kwa clinic," one says. 2 mornings a week, wheelchairs, directions, anything. Another adds, "We will put posters at our stages, official pay bill only, pikasimu to confirm." The chief writes their names into the ledger with the same pen that once underlined the pay bill, a small symmetry, a clean line drawn where a messy one was. Beatrice from social work sets a thin folder on the table. "Proposal," she says. "A small village emergency medical fund for verified referrals, transparent, oversight from the chief's office, the church, the mosque, youth, women's table, +1 nurse. Limits per case. Names private unless a family consents. Weekly totals pinned at the chief's notice board. Every reference number cross-checked with hospitals." She pauses. "No cash qua mekono. Uwazi. Transparency." Heads lean in, not out. This is how you trap the good and spill the bad. The Reverend nods. "Hall is open for reconciliations like this. We will host readings of totals. We will pray when asked. We will not perform sorrow for the camera." A murmur of agreement moves like wind in long grass. It feels less like a meeting and more like a house being repaired while people are still living inside it. Jose lifts his hand. "About the kiosk," he says. "Saturday, mchango wa kazi, or work bee." He points to a paper. "Fundi Karis will lead. We need corrugated sheets, nails, 2 doors, and paint. Diaspora, tafadali, coordinate materials, not cash to individuals. The Naivasha welders have already pledged an oxygen rack for Kijabe's ward. We'll help deliver." Laughter warms the edges of the plan. Someone shouts, "Bring music." Someone else says, "And gloves." Elijah clears his throat. "My turn," he says, voice low but sure.
I will sign for counseling. I will attend parenting sessions Beatrice recommends. I will register for NHIF and handle documents we delayed. I will co-parent with Grace, schedules, school, clinics. Sitaki aibu ya mtoto. I don't want the child shamed. He looks at Shiku. Ashe oleng. Thank you. Umenishika mkono. You have held my hand. Phones vibrate on the table. A text from Kijabe. ICU update. Stable. Beginning to wake. Ventilator support reducing. The room smiles without noise. The chief taps the message with her pen. We also have boundaries for celebration. No crowding the ward, no sudden visits. We let the team work. Our job is to prepare the life she will return to. People nod as if they've been given a map home after walking without one. Jose drafts a closing post on his phone. We did the deposit. Surgery successful. From now on, please send any extra giving to the hospital pediatric fund. They always have another case. Locally, join the Mai Mahiu Health Solidarity Fund for verified emergencies. No inbox collections. Uwazi ama hakuna. Transparency or nothing. He adds, if you posted a child's face, please delete. Protect dignity. He hits publish, then pockets the phone like a tool that has done enough for one day. Evening leans in golden over the camp. Plans turn into lists. Lists turn into hands finding hammers, into kettles on coals, into a schedule taped to a church notice board that says who is at the clinic desk next Thursday. A message from Kijabe arrives past dusk. ICU update. Stable. Extubated, breathing on her own with support. Parents can visit 2 at a time. In the ward, Shiku and Elijah stand by the bed. The child's eyes flutter open, then settle. Small fingers lift. Shiku smiles through fresh tears. Tulia, Mrembo. You are safe, she whispers. You are safe. If you have ever been wrong and then made it right, you know the difference in your chest between sorry and repair. This village is learning it in real time, that Haki and Upendo can walk side by side without tripping. Tomorrow there will be a work bee at a broken kiosk, a sign-up sheet at the clinic, and a new ledger at the chief's office that says with a simple line, "We will keep dignity." And beyond tomorrow, a quiet invitation has reached Shiku from Kijabe. Would she share her journey with other guardians on a small panel? She looks at the road to Nairobi and nods. The story that began in whispers is turning into a way of doing things. The only open question now is the most important one. When the trend fades and the cameras sleep, will we keep showing up for one another the same way?
Dr. Ruth Mutiso watches from the path, arms loosely folded, eyes bright in that quiet way people get when work goes right. We will review in clinic, she says. Medication, rest, then back to ordinary mischief. Elijah stands close enough to hear and far enough to let the moment belong to mother and child. Ashe oleng, he tells the wind, the staff, the trees, anyone who will carry the thanks further than words can go. Down the escarpment, the church hall has turned from an emergency room for generosity into a planning table. The whiteboard now reads, Mai Mahiu Health Solidarity Fund, Wazi ama Hakuna. Transparency or nothing. Chief Ntenya explains the rotation. Fridays at 4, totals read aloud. References cross-checked, privacy respected. Beatrice from social work pins a simple guide. Verified referrals, caps per case, no cash kwa mkono. A nurse volunteers 2 hours a week to staff a help desk. 2 youth create a WhatsApp line for updates. Information, not drama. Outside, the kiosk rebuild hums. Hammers tap like birds pecking. Corrugated sheets catch the light. Jose marks boards with a pencil and jokes with fundi karis, while a teenager learns to drive a nail without splitting wood. The smell of fresh paint mixes with chai. A ribbon in Shiku's favorite kitenge pattern waits for scissors. When the sign goes up, Shiku's shop, dignity first, laughter breaks like sun through cloud. Mama Nyeri ties the ribbon into a bow and places a small jar on the counter labeled Clinic Tea Fund, not for emergencies, just for comfort. Across the field, a borehole site is staked out with string and hope. A hand-painted board reads, "In memory of those lost, April 2024. Mama Nyeri coordinates a rota, digging, mixing, fetching water for cement, keeping the kettle alive. Hii ni kazi ya moyo, she says. This is heart work. People nod because they feel it in their chests. Repair is heavier than apology, but it builds something you can drink. In the afternoon, Jose gathers a dozen young creators under a jacaranda tree and opens a notebook. Ethical Storytelling 101. He doesn't lecture, he lines up questions. Did you confirm? Can you protect identity and still tell truth? Is there an official channel? If not, don't post it. He draws a box around 4 words. No faces, verify, hospital only. The group scribbles, then argues in the good way, the way that makes better habits. A girl in a yellow hoodie asks, "What if people demand a face?" Jose shrugs. We say, dignity kwanza, dignity first. Elijah walks home from the chief's office with a folder under his arm. NHIF forms signed, clinic dates circled, a co-parenting schedule handwritten in neat lines. He stops at the empty space where the flood once tore a lane wide open, then turns to the fresh trench for the borehole and smiles. Loss can hollow. It can also make room. He texts Shiku a simple line. Clinic Tuesday. I will be there early. She replies with a small heart, then sets water to boil at the kiosk and greets her first customer with, "Habari yako? Karibu." Back in Kijabe, a nurse brings a letter. From the caregiver's team, she says. Shiku opens it slowly, mouth easing into surprise. A quiet invitation. Will she sit on a small panel next month to share her journey with other guardians? The flood, the stage, the receipts, the choice to keep a child's dignity intact? She reads it twice. Sawa, she whispers, I will go. Lakini bila sura ya mtoto, without the child's face. The nurse nods, as if to say, we have learned alongside you. At the stage in Mai Mahiu, rumors attempt a comeback, as rumors do. But now they meet new habits. A rider shrugs, piga simu, call and confirm. A shopkeeper taps the poster, hospital pay bill only. A schoolboy with a frayed sweater repeats what he heard at the hall. Dignity is a medicine too. People do not become perfect overnight, but the ground has shifted. Where there was mockery, there is a pause. Where there was shouting, there is a question. Toward evening, the ward garden turns gold. The little girl holds the pinwheel up and watches it spin in a soft breeze. Shiku kneels to tie a shoelace, a simple act that feels like a crowning. Kesho, we go home, then clinic, then school. The child nods, solemn as a judge, and leans her head into Shiku's shoulder. Elijah stands a step away, learning that closeness sometimes looks like giving space. Dr. Mutiso passes with a wave. Beatrice sends a thumbs up from the corridor. It is ordinary and holy at once. If this story found you at a stage where whispers are loud, hear this. You can choose what kind of neighbor you will be. Will you forward a rumor, or will you pause and ask one more question?
Will you demand proof that shames a child? Or will you call the number on the poster and say, Tafadhali, confirm? Villages are built on those small, stubborn choices. Before you go, tell us, what habit will you carry from this? A phone call before a judgment? 50 shillings when you can? A promise to keep children's faces off your feed? Share your thoughts below. Your stories teach us too. And if you want more true tales of haki and upendo, of neighbors who hold the line for one another, karibu next time. Turn on the bell so you don't miss when the road brings another heart to the door. Asante sana for walking with us. Ashe Oleng,